Okay, so good evening, everyone. A very warm welcome to everyone here today. Welcome to Blockchain at NTU's Semester 1 Member Sharing Day. Today we have an exciting lineup for you guys in terms of the member presentations. So diving right in, this is our agenda for today. We'll start off by introducing our presenting teams and also our panel of judges. Afterwards, we'll dive right into the team presentations and we'll conclude with the award ceremony as well as the judges' feedback. The top performing teams for today will walk away with a cash prize as well as certificates. So before we begin, let me give a brief background of what Member Sharing Day means for our club and also for the benefit for those who are unaware. And because this is our very first edition of this event. So Member Sharing Day is actually a term that we use to describe a new series of events that we've introduced this year. So such events last over a period and culminates in a final presentation or sharing day by our members. And this series is meant to increase the interaction between our club members and overall engagement. So this semester, our Member Sharing Day event is a group research project for members to understand more about the current blockchain market landscape. We had two main objectives for them. The first, to carry out extensive market research to critically evaluate existing blockchain projects. And the second, to present their findings in a concise and engaging manner. So the teams worked hard over 6 weeks to prepare for the sharing today, which will be 15 minutes long, followed by a 10-minute Q&A. So we hope everyone is excited to hear what they have to share. And without further ado, let us introduce the teams that will be competing today. So first up, we will have Team Luna. We also have Team Axis, followed by Team Braves, Team Ras, and finally, Team Soulmates. Now we'll move on to introduce the judging panel that we have today as well. So for the judges, we'll be going through, we first have Prof. Wen to give a short introduction and also share a little bit about himself.
Sure, thanks a lot, Race. So my name is Yung Wen. I'm a professor at computer science, and also I'm the associate dean of research for College of Engineering, and happens to I also be the mentor for this club. So my own research touched upon blockchain. And some of you guys may attend the events. I host a talk by Vitaly Buterin a few weeks ago. I hope that the involved with the club will be good experience, learning experience for our students to get to know what's going on in the industry and identify future opportunities for you to grow when you graduate from NTU. And thanks, Rice.
Thank you so much. Next, we have Prof. Tan.
Thank you very much, Reese, and the organizing committee, and for the kind invitation. My name is Associate Professor Tan Ju Sing. I'm Associate Professor in the Strategy, International Business and Entrepreneurship Division at Nanyang Business School. As you can see, I'm a business school professor. My research in blockchain maybe about 5 years ago, and currently I'm on the advisor to some of the fintech startups in Singapore. Basically look at AI, machine learning, as well as blockchain digitization of the supply chain finance, more broadly in the trade finance area. So you can see I'm quite keen in terms of looking at the blockchain applications from a commercial perspective. So I'm excited to witness all the team members sharing today. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Roger.
Hi, thanks for the invite. And yeah, so after I went to MIT, I spent 10 years working at Facebook and Twitter, later as a Twitter engineering director. So since 5 years ago, I've been full-time investing in blockchain. So I was lucky to be the early investor of many of the projects like Ethereum, Polkadot. So love to hear more exciting projects coming out of, like let me know how I can help with the blockchain club at NTU.
Great. Thank you. Next, we have Dr. Chen.
Hello, everyone. I'm Chen Yanyu. Today, I represent Prof. Dusi Iniato to attend this conference. And currently, I'm a postdoc at Alibaba and NTU Joint Research Institute. I'm a research fellow, and my research interests focus on AI voice call, blockchain, and edge computing. Yeah, thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much. So thanks all the judges for the brief introduction. Now we'll be diving right into the presentations. May we invite the first team to present, which will be Team Luna.
Yeah, so Team Luna, I think you can start sharing screen. And yeah, once you're ready, just let us know.
Oh, should we start?
Yes.
Yeah, just a short reminder. So for the timings later on, we'll be timing you, and the time remaining will be sent to you via the chat.
Yep,
So you should
I'll,
also time on
right,
your end.
I'll be the one timing. So the total presentation time will be 15 minutes. When we hit the 10-minute mark, I will inform you all that you will have 5 more minutes. And when we hit the last minute, I'll also inform you all. Okay? Other than that, you can just begin when you're ready. All the best.
Can you guys see the screen?
Yep, we can see the screen.
Okay, great.
Okay. Welcome everyone to the member sharing day. So today Team Luna is going to present before you our presentation on liquidity pools and Uniswap. So before starting our presentation, I would like to share a motivation behind this. So after joining Blockchain Club at NTU, it instigated our quest into the crypto world. Since all four of us are in the initial phase of our investing journey, so we were very excited to explore that how would a DeFi-based market fit into a normal traditional stock market setup or a currency market setup, and therefore decided to research on these topics. Now to start with our presentation, what are liquidity pools? To put it in a very layman's language, they are not imaginary pools filled with water, but are pools filled with money. Actually, there are smart contracts with funds logged in them. Before delving deep into the liquidity pools, let's first understand that how does a traditional cryptocurrency market works and why do we even need liquidity pools in the first place? So you all must be very familiar with some of the centralized exchanges such as Coinbase and Binance. So these exchanges work on an order book model where different buyers and sellers place their orders, and when two traders decide upon the same price, the trade is being conducted. So there can be a situation in these markets where there are sellers present, but there aren't any buyers, or there are buyers present, but there aren't any sellers. So this situation is not very favorable for trading and is a hindrance in market flow. And therefore, we need liquidity pools. So liquidity pools provide solution to this by allowing their traders to always trade, no matter how low or high the cost or high the price is, no matter what time of the day it is, and no matter if there's a buyer or a seller to meet our current needs. Because it doesn't depend on human market makers, but instead depend on automated market makers. So we'll be discussing the functioning of automatic market makers later in our presentation. Now let's understand how does liquidity pool work. So each liquidity pool holds two or more tokens, and each pool creates the market for that particular pair of tokens. So for example, let's take two tokens, A and B. So the pool starts with a 50-50 ratio of both these tokens. And if suppose you are an investor and you want to invest $500 into a liquidity pool, you would have to add $250 worth of token A and $250 worth of token B. Now, the people who invest in liquidity pools are known as liquidity providers. Now, why would a liquidity provider want to provide funds to the pools? So there are two main benefits for LPs, which is whenever they add funds, they get special LP tokens in the proportion of the funds, and this gives them an opportunity to have a say in the majority policy building of that particular pool. And the second one is that whenever there is a trade which is being conducted from that pool, they get a certain cut from the transaction fee, which is proportionally distributed among all the LP token holders. Now, with the trade being conducted from that particular pool, the price of the two tokens get adjusted accordingly with the help of a deterministic algorithm called automated market makers. So how does AMM works? So these are basically self-executing programs which manage or define the price of these digital assets in the liquidity pool. So let's consider our example that we took before, that there are two tokens in the pool A and B. Now, to make sure that the ratio of these tokens in the liquidity pool remains as balanced as possible, and to eliminate the discrepancies of the pricing in the pool tokens, the AMM use a preset mathematical equation, which is x into y is equals to k. And this is used by majority of the DeFi protocols. So where x stands for the volume of token A, y stands for volume of token B, and k is their product, which always remains constant. Suppose token A is being purchased again and again from that particular pool. Therefore, the volume of token A in the pool would reduce, and resulting into the increase in their price. Whereas for token B, since it's in higher quantity as compared to token A, its price would be less. And this is how the AMMs automatically manage the price in the market. Now let's discuss what is Uniswap. It's basically a decentralized finance protocol that is used to exchange cryptocurrencies and also has liquidity pools in it. So as Uniswap is built on the Ethereum blockchain, it can easily leverage on Ethereum blockchain's decentralization and security. And it's the world's most popular and first decentralized exchange to have a total of $5 billion US of total value logged in. Now let's discuss about the various versions of Uniswap. So version 1 of Uniswap made it mandatory to have Ethereum as one of the pairs in the liquidity pools, with others being ERC20 token. This was very gas inefficient because if you wanted to convert USDC to USDT, you had to first convert USDC to Ethereum and then to USDT. Then came version 2, which offered ERC20 to ERC20 token pairs, making it more gas efficient to exchange these tokens. But it also had a downside because Ethereum had to be wrapped before getting it exchanged. And also in version 2, ERC20 tokens were used as a proof that you contributed to the pool or were used to redeem your LP stake. Then came version 3. It offered concentrated liquidity pools, allowing the liquidity providers to set a price range in which they want their money to be within, allowing for more profits for liquidity providers and also less price slippage. Because a larger pool, a larger amount of liquidity would be in popular price ranges, making it more capital efficient. In version 3, ERC20 tokens could no longer be used as receipt. Therefore, ERC720 tokens were used instead. Now let's discuss about unit tokenomics. Since we all know that Uniswap is an autonomous organization, these unit tokens are a form of governance tokens. Holders of these unit tokens can propose changes to Uniswap protocol and can even initiate new proposals. 1 billion US unit tokens were minted in the starting, of which 60% were given to the users and rest of it was given to the investor with a 4-year vesting period, which means they cannot sell their unit tokens in that particular phase of time. For a short time, these tokens are also given to the liquidity providers as an additional reward for providing liquidity, but it soon got discontinued. Now to talk more about its pros and cons, I would request Air Chair Lead to take over.
Thank you, Vidansh. So now I'll be talking about the pros and cons of using Uniswap. So I'll be starting off with the pros. So firstly, Uniswap is open source code, so anyone can use it and deploy their own version to check for bugs. It's also relatively secure as the code has been audited and has billions of dollars locked in, and there's no lock-in period for liquidity providers. Next, users will have full custody of your funds, and the risk of a centralized exchange will be eliminated. In a traditional centralized exchange, it may get hacked or go bankrupt, causing you to lose your assets. However, in Uniswap, you own full custody of your assets. There's also no know your customer process. So your personal data, your name, and your personal information will not be hacked by hackers. So the process of earning money will be faster now since you don't have to worry about getting hacked. There's also concentrated liquidity. So let's say if someone were to continuously buy Ethereum from that pool and there are no arbitrage traders to come and balance the price, the liquidity will actually be provided into a narrower price range in another liquidity pool, which will reduce slippage and give users a better trading experience. So another con now I'll be moving on to the cons of using Uniswap. So firstly, Uniswap cannot be regulated. So anyone can list tokens on it, and they will list, some scammers may list scam tokens to trick you into giving them your assets. And since transactions are irreversible, you cannot get your assets back once you send it. So scammers can run a pump and dump scheme and use Uniswap tokens as an exchange to make the scam token legit. So one way to combat this is to verify coins on CoinGecko. So another con that Uniswap has is slippage. So the price that you see when you approve a transaction may not be the price that you get back. And this can be solved by using a larger liquidity pool, which will reduce the slippage. Okay, so transactions can also fail due to a few reasons. Firstly, the gas fee paid is too low and did not meet the requirements of the miner. And when someone specifies a maximum price they're willing to pay for a token, during processing, the price can fluctuate and it may fail. And also the pool may not have sufficient funds to cover the transaction. Lastly, the transaction speeds in Uniswap will be slower as well. It can take around 10 seconds, while in a traditional centralized exchange, it will take less than a fraction of a second. Okay, so now I'll be moving on to, I'll be passing it on to Roy, who'll be talking more about minor extractable value and impermanent loss. Thank you.
The first problem that I'll talk about is minor extractable value, otherwise known as MEV. MEV is a maximum value that can be extracted from blocks by including, excluding, and changing the order of transactions in a block. It can be extracted by miners or by MEV bots. Miners can arbitrarily select and order transactions in a mempool to put into the blocks that they mine. This allows them to select and order transactions to benefit themselves. Besides miners, MEV bots can also extract MEV by fund-running large trades by setting a higher gas price than their targeted transaction so that their own transaction will get mined first. One way in which MEV is extracted is through a sandwich attack. So, for example, if a miner notices a large transaction on Uniswap causing large price slippage, he can order his own buy order before that large transaction and then put a sell order immediately after. This allows him to profit off of the large price change caused by the order, the large order. This is a problem because this can cause high price slippage for users of Uniswap and make arbitraging less profitable. Arbitrage is the main way that Uniswap's prices are kept competitive with other exchanges. So this decreases economic incentive for arbitragers and can make Uniswap's prices less competitive. Increased price slippage can also lead to a worse user experience, as users will find that their transactions get fund run and cancelled, or they will get less tokens than they expect. The next problem that I'll talk about is impermanent loss. Impermanent loss, or IL for short, is the loss of the total value of tokens held by a liquidity provider, as compared to if he had held the tokens separately and not put it into the pool. Pairs with a higher correlation in price, such as Bitcoin and Ether, will suffer less impermanent loss than pairs with lower price correlation, such as Ether and USDC, because the prices of the tokens change less relative to each other. IL occurs because of the constant market AMM algorithm. So because of this algorithm, liquidity providers will have more and more of the less valuable token as prices change. The liquidity provider would have had more money if he had held the two tokens individually instead of putting them into the LP. Impermanent loss affects liquidity providers' profits in both directions that token prices change, and can be a significant percentage, especially in V3 with concentrated liquidity. This causes opportunity costs, as liquidity providers will have a higher total value of tokens if they had not put it into the pool. So for liquidity pool providing to be profitable, the amount of fees that liquidity providers earn must be greater than the amount that they lose to impermanent loss and the amount that they pay to gas fees. Now Marcus will share more about the alternatives to Uniswap.
So what are the alternatives we have to Uniswap? Actually, there are only two. Number one, it is centralized finance. And the second thing that we have is other Ethereum-based decentralized finances. Now let's actually look into them and compare the differences. So summing up everything that we've learned just now, what are the pros of centralized finances compared to Uniswap? Number one, it has much lower fees compared to Uniswap for small amounts, because transaction fees are usually on a very small percentage on the entire transaction value. Number two, centralized exchanges or exchange in the centralized exchange occurs much faster, in faster speeds compared to decentralized exchanges. It can take a microsecond or even less than a second to do so, compared to in Uniswap, where it takes over 10 seconds. However, a lot of people still want to use Uniswap and decentralized finances because of the cons that are entailed with using centralized finance. Four main problems we've identified is number one, a counterparty risk. The exchange is the custodian of the asset. That means if it is hacked, you could potentially lose every single value of dollar that you have. Second, centralized exchanges lack liquidity because large orders typically cannot be fulfilled and matched, and hence preventing exchanges from happening. Or in a liquidity pool, it is meant to solve the liquidity problem. Thirdly, there's a lack of transparency within an exchange. We do not know the actual process, bookkeeping processes, the cost and the mechanics behind it. And finally, there's no anonymity. People need to go through KYC and ID checks, making it cumbersome to use centralized exchanges. For these reasons, that's why people want to actually use Uniswap over centralized exchanges. So the second thing that we talked about is actually how Uniswap is different from other Ethereum-based DEX. So Uniswap actually is the first and the original DEX. It is the largest market value out there with the largest liquidity pool. And now in Uniswap V3, it offers a concentrated liquidity pool to lower price slippages for traders and give higher annual returns for liquidity providers compared to the other Ethereum-based DEX. However, we must understand that things in the blockchain space is changing very quickly, and there are actually quite a few up and running tokens that are here to compete with Uniswap. Number one, we have SushiSwap. SushiSwap actually offers a native token as a staking reward, and SushiSwap actually has over 13 networks compared to Uniswap having only 3 networks. So in conclusion, Uniswap is currently the largest Ethereum-based DEX. It makes use of liquidity pools to help users exchange money and actually use a constant product formula to make the market. Despite being the largest in the market right now, there are strong competitors from that are coming up, such as SushiSwap, PancakeSwap, and so on. With that, we conclude our presentation. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Team Luna. That was a very insightful presentation. And yeah, you all just managed to complete the presentation on time. So I think now we can proceed on with the Q&A. Judges, you guys have about 10 minutes to actually ask the teams anything regarding about their presentation.
Okay, I'll start. With 2 quick questions. So, I think the presentation is super clear to explain what it is, right? So my 2 question is, what do you think? Which part do you think make Uniswap so successful? What's the first feature or first key thing that when kind of triggered its success? I think which part. The second thing is can you kind of think about you mentioned a lot of pros and cons. Can you think about what's the key area that you want to improve? You think you can create a Uniswap competitor that's even better than Uniswap. Which area you want to improve so that you can create a Uniswap killer?
Okay, so for the first question, what made Uniswap so successful? I think the main reason why Uniswap is so successful is that it is the original it's the original DEX that made it that actually.
There's a lot of DEX.
So it was one of the first ones that.
Not the first one. This is not the first one. In 2016, in 2017, there are many DEX.
But they were not based on AMMs, were they?
Yeah. Your key point is AMM is what makes successful. I don't think, yeah.
If I'm not wrong, the old DEXs, they were using order books. So if I'm not wrong, I think that Uniswap was one of the first that used constant market AMMs to create a decentralized exchange.
So go ahead.
So in this aspect, what made it successful is that it is decentralized first, because users may not want to do KYC on a centralized exchange. They don't want to review their own personal details. So the decentralization aspect plays to Uniswap because it benefits the users as they don't need to show KYC, to do KYC. So users appreciate the decentralized aspect. So, and then the second thing I would say that is one of the first few AMMs access on Ethereum. And next, I would say that it is a very innovative project because it solves the problems that order books have on slow blockchains like Ethereum, such as high gas fees and long transactions and slow transaction speeds. So I think that one of the reasons is that its innovativeness to solve the problems that the other.
If you think about innovative, it's less than 1,000 lines code, and the AMM mathematics you can understand by elementary school student. It's not it doesn't use any like advanced mathematics. It's just elementary school students can understand the AMM, right? That it's very basic. I would say, I think you say it's very innovative, but it only requires elementary student mathematics. It doesn't require like high school mathematics.
Yeah, that's true. But innovativeness doesn't depend on the complexity of the underlying algorithms. I think what makes it so innovative is that it is precisely so simple, and they managed to make such a simple algorithm solve such a huge problem.
That's exactly. I totally agree. So I guess one. Do you think? Can you think about ways to improve AMM? I'm not saying like for example the impermanent loss. Like I'm not saying you propose something right now, but any direction you think can improve the AMM.
I think the AMMs are. I think that IL is a very big problem in AMMs, and it's very hard to solve as well. So perhaps you can have imbalanced pools like 90-10, 80-20 instead of always 50-50. So that can help reduce impermanent loss because of the lopsided distribution. And I think that one way to maximize profits on Uniswap V3 is yield aggregation through getting a large amount of money from investors and then put it into a very small type range, such as if the current price is 4.1K USDC per Ether, you gather a large amount of funds, maybe a few million, and then you put it smack right in the middle, 4.1 now, so maybe 4.05 to 4.15, and then you just continually take out the money when the price goes out of range, and then put it into that same type range. So this can maximize yield for the liquidity providers. And there are such yield aggregators they are built on top of Uniswap. But I think that a built-in yield aggregator for Uniswap would make it a much better protocol.
Could I ask one question for the team here? Thank you, Roger, for those questions and also the responses from the team. You mentioned towards the end in phase of competition from Uniswap and so on. So Uniswap has on 13 networks compared to Uniswap on 3 networks. Do you think that this could be a network congestion problem? Any impact on the gas fees ultimately and how they compete?
You're saying that they use on more networks, so there's higher gas fees?
But congestion of the networks at some point, would there be any correlation with the gas fees and also how they differentiate from other competitors? So, if the competitor has more networks, should also Uniswap also move in that direction or stick to the same strategy?
I think that it really depends on what they want, because I think Uniswap wants to focus on Ethereum, and that's fine as well, because there's less market value in sidechains like Polygon or even Avalanche or that. There's less users in that, so there's much more profit that you can make in Ethereum if they just focus all their resources on Ethereum and making their Ethereum DEX the best possible one.
Thank you.
Okay, it's about 10 minutes or so. Yeah, thank you, judges, for your questions, and thanks, Team Luna, for your answers. If there are no other questions, I think we can actually proceed with the next presentation. Sorry.
Excuse me, can you come up with one question?
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah, there's only one question for me. We know that consensus mechanism is quite important in blockchain. So in your platform, what consensus mechanism do you use?
To answer this, I guess since Uniswap is built on Ethereum blockchain, so therefore the consensus part is already being taken care of by the blockchain Ethereum. So there isn't any need for a separate consensus protocol for Uniswap. I hope I answered the question, sir.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, that's all. Thank you.
Okay, sure. Thanks, Prof. All right. So I think we can proceed on with the next team. So yeah, can the next team just start? Yeah, start sharing your screen. And once you're ready, you can just begin. Yep, you can see your screen.
Is it okay for us to start?
Yep, just begin whenever you're ready.
Good evening, judges, fellow Exco members, and fellow members. We are Team Axis, and today we'll be presenting on Xinfinity. Xinfinity is one of the many consumer applications within the NFT stack, and it sits very comfortably within the gaming subsector in the applications layer. So, what exactly is Xinfinity all about? Xinfinity is a Pokemon-inspired universe where anyone can earn tokens by battling, collecting, raising, and building a kingdom for their pets, also known as Xyz. It is structured as an open-ended pet universe whereby the Xyz core team, the developer Sky Mavis, will continuously build functionality for the game assets for the users to play with. So let's talk more about the blockchain architecture. Xinfinity is built on the Ronin sidechain, which rests on the Ethereum blockchain. They are connected via the Ronin bridge, which is developed by the developers Sky Mavis. So to transfer assets from the Ethereum blockchain to the Ronin sidechain, you simply have to download the respective wallets on Chrome, supply some ETH to your MetaMask wallet, and transfer using the bridge that is developed by Sky Mavis. Ronin is a Byzantine fault-tolerant proof of authority network. So what does this mean? This means that firstly, it solved the Byzantine generals problem, which is a game theory problem which describes the difficulty that decentralized parties have at arriving at consensus. And Ronin solves this problem by using the proof of authority consensus mechanism. So in this mechanism, transaction and blocks are validated by validators. And these validators essentially attach their reputation and they put at stake. And these validators are incentivized to uphold the transaction process, otherwise their reputation will be tarnished. Let us take a deeper dive into this consensus mechanism. So we know that the current validators are appointed by Sky Mavis, the developers, and are also rewarded by Sky Mavis. And the current validators include big names like Ubisoft, Binance, Animoca Brands, and so on. Further details about this mechanism, we know that blocks require approval from at least 2/3 of validators in order to be approved. And these validators are also responsible for very simple tasks, such as authoring and validating blocks, updating price oracles, and so on. These validators also control the addition and removal of other validators. Over time, Ronin plans to upgrade and incorporate proof-of-stake elements as well as layer 2 scaling solutions. And all transactions on Ronin are free of charge as of now. Let us compare Ronin to the other consensus mechanisms out there, namely Classical and Nakamoto. We know that Ronin has the highest fault tolerance rate at 67%. It is the most energy efficient, but also the least decentralized amongst the three. Let us take a look at each of them carefully. So under the classical consensus mechanism, one example of which is the practical Byzantine fault tolerance system. We know that they have active communication between their nodes, which allows them to achieve agreement without confirmation. But because of the active communication required, it's only suitable for smaller networks. For the Nakamoto consensus mechanism, which is basically what's used in the Bitcoin blockchain, they use proof of work, whereby miner will get rewarded by solving complex puzzles. But because it requires large amount of computational resources, it is not very scalable. Ronin, on the other hand, uses proof of authority, where the validators put their identity and reputation at stake. It is a less energy intensive process overall, but it is highly centralized because Sky Mavis were the sole decider of the original validators. So how does Ronin compare to the other layer 2 scaling solutions out there in the market? I know that this is a very complicated table, but the key insights that we can draw from this table is that Ronin has very similar block times and very similar transaction fees to the other L2s out there. The key difference is that it uses proof of authority instead of proof of stake or delegated proof of stake like the other L2s.
It is built specifically by Sky Mavis for the game Xinfinity, which means that Sky Mavis can optimize this sidechain for the game. In the future, Sky Mavis can potentially lease out this sidechain for other apps to build on top of it as another business model, but that's another story for another day. In terms of the blockchain trilemma, Ronin prioritizes security and scalability and sacrifices decentralization. But why does it choose to do so? We know that Xinfinity is a game whereby users need to make many transactions every single day. Whether it's transferring tokens, breeding XYZ, buying and selling XYZ, they need to do many transactions. And in order to optimize the gameplay for the users, it's crucial to minimize gas fees for the transactions. And hence, Sky Mavis achieves scalability by creating their own Ronin sidechain, which although is more centralized, can scale easily and thus is able to have no gas fees. And this scalability is achieved through the POA consensus, which is less energy intensive and puts the reputation of validators at stake. Next, I'll be handing over the time to Houston.
Now, to understand why players play the game, let's explain the utility and gameplay. So basically, players collect XYZ and use them in PvP matches to earn real profits. So in a 2-player match, each player deploys 3 XYZ, and each turn, each XYZ randomly draws a card from a specific pool of their own. Players receive limited amounts of energy to spend on using these cards, which are for either offense or defense. Once all of an opponent's XYZ are defeated, players earn in-game tokens, which we'll elaborate later on. Now, these tokens allow you to profit through breeding and selling XYZ, speculating on the value of rarer XYZ, or even staking on the game protocol. Despite the play-to-earn model, players also have to pay to play since 3 XYZ are first needed to start a match. And given the cheapest XYZ today cost about $200, many players can't afford that. So this is where the manager-scholar model comes in, a system popularly used within the community. So you have managers, usually players who started playing early when XYZ prices were still low and accumulated many XYZ. But since playing matches only needs 3 XYZ, the rest are lent out to scholars who use them to play matches and earn profits, which are then shared. This is overall a win-win situation because managers gain passive income and scholars get to start playing for free. Now on to Junchen to further explore the in-game tokens.
Hi guys, I'm Junchen and now I'll be talking about the tokenomics. So basically the Xinfinity universe is made up of 2 tokens, the AXS token and the SLP token. So I'll be talking about the AXS token first. So the AXS token is a ERC20 utility token that's used for governance, staking, payment, and breeding. So players will be able to stake their AXS to earn rewards and then participate in governance voting. So players can also use AXS token to play game and conduct payments, which is currently unavailable. And AXS is collected as a fee when XYZ are bred. The number of AXS token collected changes over time, but currently it is at 1 AXS token. So now we're talking more about the staking. So players will be able to stake their AXS token to earn rewards. And the rewards come from the community treasury. So the community treasury will receive 4.25% of all XC NFT marketplace transactions and the excess portion of the breeding fee. Yeah, so now we're talking about SLP, Smooth Love Potion. So it is given as reward to players who win in the player versus player battle mode, single player adventure mode, or clearing daily quests. So SLP can also be used to breed new XYZ. And when new XYZ are bred, SLP is burnt. XYZ can be bred up to 7 times. An increasing amount of SLP is needed each time an XYZ is bred. The supply of SLP is unlimited. Yeah. So now we're talking about the AXS token allocation. So AXS will be locked in a predetermined schedule, which lasts for 65 months from public sale. So the total supply of AXS token will never exceed 270 million. So the supply of AXS token is fixed. You can take a look on the graph on the chart on the right to roughly see the token allocation. Yeah. So next up is a graph which shows the unlock schedule. Yeah. So now we're talking more about the challenges that we think that the game is facing. So firstly, SLP is minted a lot more than SLP burnt. So this causes the supply of SLP to increase. So when the supply increases, the price drops. So when the price drops, the players profit less from the game. So less players will want to enter the game. So when less players want to enter the game, there's a low demand of XYZ. and the price of Axis drops. So you can take a look at the chart on the bottom. So it basically shows the Axis floor price. So you can see that from a certain point of time, the price of each Axis drop a lot. However, the Axis price is still expensive for some players because players need around 3 Axis to start the game. So the minimum cost of starting the game will be at least around like 700 USD. So it's still costly. So here are some solutions that we propose. So Sky Mavis plans to implement trial Axis with 0 or close to 0 earning potential so that players can try out the game before they invest any money into the game. So we also think that Sky Mavis can make the gameplay more intuitive because currently it's very complex, so it takes a lot of effort to get started on the game. Yeah. Next up, I'll be talking about the roadmap. So Xinfinity has achieved a lot so far. So currently we have the Ronin blockchain, we have the XE Origin Alpha, the Land Game Alpha, and AXS staking. So what we can look forward to is that very soon, players who stake their tokens will be able to participate in governance voting. There will be play to earn, and then there will be mainstream release of Xinfinity on mobile devices. So next year, there will be land gameplay where players can expand their kingdom, harvest resources, etc. And there will also be Lunasia SDK Alpha, where Xinfinity will allow developers and creators to make games using existing Xinfinity assets and hosting them on Xinfinity land. Thank you. So next, I'll be passing my time on to Horsten.
So although in a nascent field, Xinfinity isn't the only player. Its potential competitors also utilize Ethereum Layer 2 scaling solutions for instant, gas-free, carbon-neutral transactions and NFT minting. So our first competitor is the Sandbox, a world-building game powered by the Sand token, which is both a utility and governance token. Players use this token for all sorts of things unimaginable. They create, share, trade, and monetize avatars, lands, games, and more. What Xinfinity can learn from this is to create more functionalities for its SLP, that is boosting its burning mechanism, as mentioned by Junchen, to reduce its current excess supply. Because as of now, SLP is mostly ever only burnt when breeding new axes. So with more functionalities, the game itself also becomes more interesting because attracting players not just to play to earn, but also to have genuine fun. Next slide. And now our next competitor is Gods Unchained, a tactical game where players play cards to outsmart their opponent. It aims to simulate the true ownership of physical cards, as in card games like Magic the Gathering and Pokemon, but now with NFTs. This game is also unique because it gives free welcome sets to all new players, so players can start playing with zero cost, unlike Xinfinity. As such, Xe developers have also learned from this and, as mentioned by Junchen, planning to create a free demo version for casual players. After all, Xinfinity is also aiming to expand the blockchain gaming network, so inclusion is important. Further, in support of this goal, we believe Xinfinity could also build a platform for connecting managers and scholars, as the manager-scholar model till now has mostly been enacted peer-to-peer with no designated central platform. Next. Despite the competition, Xinfinity still has massive potential ahead because apart from being the earliest adopter of the play-to-earn model, Xinfinity boasts massive return rates. In third-world countries like the Philippines, playing the game earns 5 times the minimum wage, helping the poor to earn a living and some to even purchase new homes. As such, the game gained huge publicity. This goes hand in hand with state scholarship models, the game's partnerships with big names, and its transparent, tireless developers. Next. Finally, here's the history of blockchain games and how they may evolve in future. Unfortunately, due to time constraints, we'll go through it briefly, but I'll be more than happy to take questions on this later on. Next. Because of Xinfinity's massive impact on its industry, we can expect games to continue using Ethereum Layer 2 solutions, given its numerous advantages. They will also revolve around NFTs and playing to earn. So there are 2 types of games that we foresee. 1, strategic high complexity games, and 2, simple casual games. The former will be the ones we discussed, designed to take time and be played as a long-term investment. They may sacrifice decentralization for a more stable ecosystem to avoid volatile tokens, that us players despise. And on the casual side, we can expect endless runner games, basically simple linear games that players play until they lose to the ever-increasing difficulty. Think Subway Surfer, Crossy Road, and Flappy Bird. These games leverage on easy gameplay and short attention spans to quickly build up extensive user bases and are expected to be highly lucrative. This brings us to the end of our presentation. We hope that you enjoyed it.
All right, thank you so much, Team XC. Judges, you may proceed with the Q&A.
Thank you very much for presentation. I have just one question. There's a lot of focus about the earn to play model, the manager scholar model, scholarship model. Where do you see potentially future revenue streams if this model is going to be sustained? Do you see maybe a pivot to a game as a service model, or will stick to the earn to play model for Xinfinity?
I believe that it would be more profitable to stick to the play to earn model, although it requires a lot more effort and time to be invested to make the ecosystem sustainable. Such play to earn games will be able to attract more enthusiasts within the blockchain community, because as we can see in the second last slide, Kei-Hin, could you take us to the second last slide? The one on a brief history of blockchain games. Thanks. So blockchain games started as gambling and casino games, but they ultimately failed due to extensive faucet losses by giving too much rewards to its players. And as you can see, the next type of games we have that are developed are Bitcoin mining games, which basically convert Bitcoin mining rewards into in-game goods. This also failed because mining became more competitive and Bitcoin also became more inaccessible. And the blockchain gaming industry only started to explode when NFTs were introduced. And the type of games that truly utilize NFTs were play-to-earn games, as we can see in this 2018 time period, where we see more famous games like CryptoKitties and Xinfinity. So Xinfinity combines play-to-earn with gamification. So its extensive gameplay and economic incentives, I believe, is the keystone to a sustainable and long-term game. I hope that answers the question.
Hey, thank you. I think it's a very strong analysis of this, and I have the very similar two questions like the first one. So among so many reasons, I think you mentioned about Xfinity's success. Which number one reason do you think kind of made it so successful, right? In the 2021, among those, I think it's one of the reasons you list here, but I want to hear your opinion. Which one is the number one reason? My second question is on your predictions. You're kind of, it's good that you're predicting which one will be very successful in the future. So my question is, why you make this prediction? What I think that the Xfinity is just a beginning of a huge market. I think that in the future, all the mobile games, social game will convert to GameFi games. So like I think currently the set of users are going to be very different than future. What's the core set of users? What do you think in the future? What's the majority set of the user? What's their cohort, and how do you think that's kind of my second question. Maybe it's a little bit long, but two questions.
Could I take the question? So to address your first question on why we think Xfinity still rises over its other competitors, I think mainly it's because it was the first to introduce the play-to-earn concept, having the early adopter advantage. But I think apart from being an early adopter, the reason why Xfinity became so famous and so popular is mainly because it was able to cultivate a strong and avid community, a strong and avid gaming community that aspires to earn big returns. Because as I mentioned earlier on, players in Philippines managed to earn 5 times their normal minimum wage just by playing the game every day. And some even purchased new homes and made were able to make charitable donations. So Xinfinity made use of this for publicity and also utilize this to attract media to make itself so famous within the industry. So I believe if games want to model Xinfinity's success, it will be essential for them to try to gain as much publicity as they can, so that they'll be able to attract more enthusiasts. That's my take.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Roger, for your questions. Maybe I can answer your second question. I believe it was about our predictions. So the reason why we made these predictions, it was largely based on what is currently already out there in the traditional gaming industry. So in the current non-blockchain gaming industry, we do see a large number of games that belong to either of these two categories. That means either they are like AAA rated games whereby they have high graphics or high strategy gameplay, or they are usually very casual, simple games that people can play on their mobile phone, in a train, in buses, as part of their free time. And we see much success in these two genres. So, in the casual, simple games, we have games like, Angry Bird, Flappy Bird, Crossy Road, and so on. And they are able to target a large number of users to generate, small amount of revenue from each of them, which sums up to a large amount. And then for those AAA rated games, they are the ones that focus a lot on building a story behind their characters, building a good animation, good gameplay, and these are what attracts people, also a large number of core gamers and hardcore gamers to play in the long run. So personally, we feel that because crypto or in blockchain in general is not mainstream yet, we feel that there is a lot of untapped potential in the casual games because of just the fact of how casual games is able to attract a large number of user base because of how addictive it is. And if they're able to somehow convert these large number of casual game players into blockchain adopters or users of the blockchain, we feel that there is a large monetization potential right there, and this is the large reason why we decided to come up with the prediction for these two types of games.
Got you. Thank you.
Thanks. It's a good talk. So I've different type of questions. So say you would given a chance to redesign this game. So what one thing you would like to change in order to make it more successful, and why?
Okay, I think I can take this question. So as I have said in the presentation, so basically currently, right, this game is the gameplay is very complicated. So when people buy axes to battle axes, there's different type of axes, and different type of axes have different functions. So the gameplay is very complicated. So I think that to attract more players, we can have like simpler gameplay. Also because right now people are investing a lot of money to be able to start the game. So each axis costs around 200, and then people need 3 axes to start the game. So that will be minimally 600. And for some of the players, right, if they want to get good axes to be able to do well from the start, they have to spend up to like few thousands or tens of thousands of dollars just to get a good axes. And then so the game right now, right, the way it is programmed is kind of asking players to spend such a huge investment in a game without really like knowing how the game will be like. So I think that so we want to have the free starter axes, so players can get 3 free axes that have very limited earning potential, so that like players who just want to try out the game, they can just try out first, and then when they actually learn how to play the game, or when they decide that they really like the game and want to invest more time and more money in it, they can purchase more axes. Yeah.
If I may, could I also add on to my friend's answer?
Sure.
So I think another method of making the game simpler is to, instead of introducing 2 different tokens, we could also just introduce a single token. I think this is what we have learned from the Sandbox, the blockchain game. It only uses 1 sand token, but it's both a utility and governance token. It's used by players not just for governance staking, but also building their entire world of their own characters, building games, building, like I mentioned before, build anything that they imagine. So it proves to us that one token is sufficient already, and it makes the game much more simpler to understand also. So Xinfinity could implement this. And also because of because you're just using one token, it's much more easy to manipulate the supply and demand mechanism for that single token. If you have two distinct tokens, then you have to manage both of this separately. So I believe that having one token would be also helpful for Xinfinity.
Okay, thanks.
All right, thank you so much for all the questions and answers. Shall we proceed on with the next team? So yeah, the next team, when you're ready, can just start sharing screen. So you'll be Team Brave. Your screen is visible now. Whenever you're ready, just begin. Yep, your screen is good.
Okay, thank you. Hi, Faye. Could you start?
Yep, you may begin whenever you're ready.
Sorry, my partners should start.
Is your partner there? Fine,
Yeah,
correct.
yeah, he's here.
Sorry. Okay.
Oh, okay, sure, nice.
Can you hear me? Okay.
Yep,
So,
we can hear you.
hi everyone. Hi the judges. We are Team Brave, and today we're gonna talk about Brave browsers. So this is the outline of our presentations, which content of each part, and we'll go through them one by one. So firstly is the problem identification. So information in the modern age is relatively cheap, and the promise of advertising technology was to create an efficient market for attentions. And the attack would take marketers closer to user via data analysis or immediate valuation and distributions. However, at the present, that doesn't happen yet. So the publisher is paid by monetizing attention via a very complex network, and the publisher isn't really directly paid for the attentions. So in the next speaker, as you can see here, this is a very complex network for the advertising ecosystems. And typical checking on large content size is very huge. And this results in a loading cost of advertising content, and it's much higher than the editorial content. And as a reason, blockchains become more popular these years, and it's much more popular on mobile device. And because of the reasons shown above, there currently three problems of digital advertising, which is falling revenue of publishers, user feeling increasingly violate, and advisor inability to effectively address the content to users. So the project's overview and objective of Brave is to Brave is a fast and open source privacy-focused browsers that lock invasive ads and trackers. It contains a ledger system that can anonymously measure user attentions and accurately reward publishers. And the main objective of it is firstly, value user attentions. Second, superior speed, securities, and privacies. And thirdly, is give user all the corresponding right. And indeed, have a slogan which is rethink network operations. And this achieved via combining Brave browser with a blockchain token called Basic Attention Token, or BAT for short. So now I move on to talk about the BAT system, which is the heart of the Brave ecosystem. So first, blockchain based, and it's an ERC20 standard token built on top of Ethereum's. And the purpose of the token is platform native. It's act as a unit of account for related service. And the reason they use a distinct token is to solve in-platform problems, and this can also use to incentivize new users. To obtain the token, you can either view art, creating contents, or funding your token directly by Ethereum. This can be stored on the BAT wallet or other decentralized exchange aggregators. And here's the BAT art flows. As you can see here, every party is protected and the token acts as a way of communication between them. So since BAT is Ethereum based, it can achieve securities because all of the transaction is cryptographically secure. And for the consensus problems, it currently build proof of work, but as the Ethereum evolve, it should can change to proof of stake as well. And for the speed and scale solutions, it follow Ethereum to use L2 solutions. And in order to support micropayments, it also want to integrate stake channels. And this should reduce transaction fees, enhance speed, and make the whole system scalable. And finally, for the business logics, all BAT is deployed via smart contracts, and this controls the value flow of the BAT. So firstly, stake channel, which is an L2 solution to support micropayments. And this is a way to allow participants to perform off-chain transactions. And the security is ensured via a hash lock transfer scheme. And this is called balance proof. So instead of keeping all the transaction details, each party only keep a copy of the final balance and update to the mainnet. So the stake channel can make transactions cheaper, faster, and make the network scalable without sacrificing securities. And for the value flow, as you can see here, the higher level concept is that firstly, the advertiser send a payment in the token along with ad, and it is locked in a state called XA, and this is then passed to the users. And they gonna store it then in a wallet, and it's called XU. And Brave gonna take some of the shares, and this XP, the revenue of Brave. Finally, the rest, XA minus XU minus XP, is passed to the publishers, and these their earnings. So a few information about the token launch. It was launched on 31st of May 2017, and the monetary supply is kept fixed at 1.5 billion, and among which 300 million is used for user growth. And for the token distributions, most of which is used for BAT deployments and administrations. Some of them is also key for marketing and to incentivize new users. Next, I want to talk about the attention measurements. They can achieve accurate and secure measurements of user attentions. So they use basic attention metrics, which is a system to measure attention directly, securely, and anonymously. However, to accurately count the amount of attention remains a challenge for Brave, and a few metrics have been proposed in their white papers. First is a fixed time window, which means you have to view like 5 views with a minimum view time of 5 seconds in a window size of 30 days in order for the attention to be credited. Or second is a concave score, and the reverse is based on the threshold and bounded functions of the time spent on the platforms. And this can be visually viewed by the next slide. So for the first minute, you get 1 point of attention score, and it's harder to gain as time goes by, and the score is capped maximum at 7 at 12 minutes. The second problem is digital advertising. Brave want to build a recommender system to accurately the accurate contents and news to the users. So since it's a decentralized web, it cannot use traditional methods, but it's still use machine learning solutions. But in the face of data collections, it can anonymously monitoring user data via active tags. For the data aggregations, all data are privatized and is sent to full node for updates. And for the machine learning algorithms, it's in-device machine learning. So every data is kept secure in the user tablet or device. So this can potentially achieve much more accuracies than any centralized method. This is an overview of how the system would work. So to get more detail, you can refer to the blog post on Brave website or the actual papers.
Okay, thanks to Faye for explaining the BAT system. Now let's move to say how Brave achieves its goal with BAT system. These are Brave's objectives mentioned before. The first objective, reading users' attention properly. This is achieved since users' attention is scored through basic attention metrics in the BAT system. Users get the reward tokens while browsing, which can be used in many ways according to the Unchained and hybrid utility model. This is the official webpage of Brave browser. As you can see, they are very proud of the speed and online privacy achieved. Then let's look at the second objective achieved, super speed. On the desktop, Brave software contains that its browser loads pages 3 times faster than Google's Chrome, the world's #1 browser, and 6 times faster than Firefox. The speed increases are not surprising. By eliminating ads and ad trackers, Brave downloads much less content from a website than any browser without an ad blocking content extensions. While many browsers and tools aim to improve web privacy, Brave has the strongest protections by far of many popular browsers or extensions. There are 8 ways for Brave to achieve super privacy and security. Brave, firstly, it blocks all ads and trackers. By combining filter editors from many different projects, Brave blocks more unwanted advertising and tracking resources than any other browser. It also blocks all third-party storage. All user data is kept private on user's device and is not accessible by any third party. By making each browser session appear unique through randomizing users' fingerprints, the browser protects users' privacy from browser fingerprinting-based tracking. Also, Brave limits how often the Brave browser communicates with Brave server by checking with its server for updates. Moreover, it updates insecure requests to HTTPS. Brave applies a wider range of requests to always be secure compared to other browsers. Also, Brave by default removes known tracking related query parameters from URLs while you browse, keeping you one step ahead trackers online. It also improves privacy in Chromium by its own projects. Last but not least, the tour tabs prevent sites from learning your IP address by opening a new private window with Tor and browsing with the protections of the Tor network. So the fourth objective, Brave browser gives users corresponding rights. Users can not only choose to watch privacy-conscious advertisements to get rewards, but they also given control to adjust ad blocking and cookie settings. After understanding how Brave works and achieves goals through BAT systems, let's have a further understanding of how Brave incentivizes different parties. So there are 4 parties within Brave browser. For common users, the attention is rewarded with BAT, which can be utilized in many different ways, as mentioned before, like supporting publishers. For content creators, they can use Brave's partner uphold to convert BATs they receive from users into another currencies. Also, for advertisers, BAT system makes sure they can get their ads in eyes of valuable audience. For Brave software company itself, its financial foundation rests on the share of ad revenue. The cut of published ads is 15%, while the cut of user ad is 30%. The above are all Brave browser's functions. Let's see how it compares with other famous browsers. The first is the utility, the most easily perceptible part of users. Even though Brave is relatively new, its utility is not inferior to other famous browsers. In addition to regular utility, it has many other highlight features that are not shown in this table, such as Brave Talk, playlist, and so on. For general security and privacy protection, Brave is one of the best browsers. Moreover, when it comes to online privacy protection, Brave is undoubtedly the best. The success of Brave browser can be reflected on its statistics. As shown in the picture, Brave is getting more and more popular, and it's the first crypto application to have more than 1 million users. However, that doesn't mean Brave is the perfect browser. It still faces many challenges. Firstly, there are other blockchain-friendly browsers which can achieve high security and privacy protection, like Oasis and Opera. How to make use of Brave's strengths and win the competition with them is worth thinking about by Brave. Secondly, Brave advertising ideas is novel, but yet not perfect, as not anyone might want to get too involved in the micropayment management. Thirdly, some publishers seek to stop Brave browser's ad blocking tool, because what Brave does definitely hurt publishers who rely on advertising revenue. Fourthly, as for their attention counting model implemented in BAT, many researches are still need to be done to make it more fair for others. In order to solve possible problems, Brave constantly adjusts its roadmap according to the market, and this is the newest version of the roadmap. In past, it has gone through 3 stages to integrate the BAT system. It firstly only protects user anonymity. Then it moves on to blockchain to make the transfer and verification process distributed. Also, it updated BAM metrics based on advertisers' feedback as needed. In addition, there are many 3 directions in Brave's future planning, including more utility of BATs, scanning Brave ads, and more utility outreach. Finally, it comes to the conclusion of our presentation. Brave is not perfect, but with its instincts of network operations, it chooses to protect users' privacy and return rights to users. And for us, to protect our data privacy, everyone should fight bravely. That's all our presentation. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Team Brave. We can proceed on with the Q&A. So judges, please feel free to ask.
Thank you very much, Team Brave Browser. The 2 questions are actually related. I only have these 2 questions here. One, I think the model here is for Brave Browser to connect the publishers and the advertisers. So my first question is, how does this process result in better revenue money for the publisher, more or less from this basic attention token BAT? And the second question is related to this, the future of digital advertising. How brave is Brave here in terms of posing that threat to Facebook and Google in terms of digital advertising? Because there's some talk whether it is still this Web 3.0, but it feels like Web 2.0. Of course, I saw the future plans you presented last slide. So these 2 questions are related in terms of the value created for the publisher, because they're connecting publishers and advertisers. And the other one is in terms of what is really differentiating Brave Browser and pushing ahead, because some parts it look like still like Web 2.0, except maybe it's blockchain based compared to maybe to Google or Facebook out there. Your response, please. Thank you. A good presentation.
Okay, thank you. So for the first question, how the Brave affects publishers' revenue is because Brave software take a cut from the publisher ad and user ad. As you can see, the cut is really large, and which will hurt the publishers' revenue if they rely on the advertising revenue. Okay.
Yeah, and I want to.
Yeah.
I want to add more a bit, because Brave now your blockchain system to accurately monitoring users. So the data is accessed is much more. I mean, it can access much more private data from traditional approach, and such method would make the recommender more accurate. And also by blocking all the middlemen, it make the system faster, and it can reward users as well. So the user pool will grow. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. I think it definitely is more efficient compared to what we have now. Thank you.
Since nobody asked question, I kind of watched the BAT very closely in 2017. It was in top 20 in the coin market cap. So what do you think? I still the kind question. What do you think the reason why it has early success? What do you think the number one reason why it's not that successful? Over time, even the team is working really hard on this problem. What's do you think of the reason of the early success and why, it's not very successful now after 4 years, more than 4 years?
Wait, sorry, I'm not quite understanding of your question. Do you mean that why?
So in 2017, this is a very successful project. It's top 20 or top 10 in the coin market cap. Now, not a lot of users use it. And, I don't think it has a lot of adoption. So why do you think that's the reason?
Oh, okay. So as we have mentioned, part of the answers in our presentation, we think that firstly, they have some competitors such as the Oasis and Operas. They are also blockchain friendly browsers, and also they have different integration of blockchain. Other comparing from Brave. And maybe they have some they can achieve better security in some aspects. And also for Brave's BAT system, maybe some users they just want to browse the content and they don't want to get involved in the BAT system or the micropayment management system. So I think that's the reason for me.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I also think for the early success, I think it's mostly because of the hype that you can growth and earnings at the same times. But they state on the website that BAT is not used as a financial intermediaries or any financial assessment. So it's just a platform native support. And once the user growth pool is well, so Brave don't issue more tokens and the incentive is less. So there's not much more details.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Hello. Good presentation. So I have one question. So we use federated learning to do the ad recommendation. So can you explain more? How federated learning is used in this system and how it collaborate blockchain? Like this.
Okay.
Thank you.
So traditionally, the big companies will collect user data and they will build big models to recommend the right contents, and they will sell the contents to the advertisers. But now, since it's a decentralized system, every device now will contain the machine learning models, and this will local data on your device. And after the data is changed, it's masked to a network and then sent to the LDP module here for aggregations. And it's still an active research on how to effectively aggregate all the data and to monitor the problem of sometimes your device is not working and how to incentivize user to get more involved in the systems.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Are there any more questions from the judges? All right. If there isn't, I think we can proceed with the next team. So the next team will be Team RAS, presenting on BitCloud. Yep. We can see your screen. So whenever you're ready, just begin.
All right. Thank you so much. All right. A very good evening, everyone. We are Team RAS, and today we'll be doing a deep dive into BitCloud. So what is BitCloud exactly? Well, it's a decentralized social media platform, and it's actually a dApp built on the Diesel blockchain. It allows creators to tokenize their posts and the content created, and each creator actually has his or her own token. And the value of this token is actually tied to the content and engagement of the creator itself. So where does DSO fit into this blockchain trilemma problem, right? So when you look at coins such as Nano as well as Grin on the Mimblewimble network, you can see that scalability and decentralization is something they prioritize. While you look at something such as Bitcoin and Ethereum, scalability is something you lose out on, evident from the high gas fees associated with each of the networks. But when you look at DSO as well as Ripple, you can see that these are coins mainly controlled by large organizations, which is where they lose out on in terms of decentralization. But scalability and security is something they prioritize. DSO is currently looking to try and decentralize further, but we'll get into that later on. So this is actually what the BitCloud interface looks like. So I just want to bring your attention to the right, where you can see the top creators of all time tab. So if you take a look at it, you can actually see that Elon Musk is one of them, and you have people like Chamas. So you can notice that for Chamas, there's a blue tick associated with it, right? So the blue tick actually means that he has verified his profile on BitCloud on Twitter itself, while the clock on Elon Musk's profile means that he has not yet verified his profile on BitCloud. So what is the vision for BitCloud exactly? Well, it aims to be a consumer-first dApp to allow users which allows users to curate their own feed, and ensures seamless innovation because the data is available on a public blockchain and every single developer who wants to build on DSO can do so. And lastly, it allows content creators to monetize whatever content that they curate on the platform itself. So what is the background of BitCloud? It was actually founded by Nader El-Naji in March of 2021, prior to which he was actually anonymous, known as Diamond Hands on the platform. It is supported by the non-profit DSO Foundation, which has a $200 million treasury to support its mission of decentralizing social media even further. It has a native currency of DSO, which has backers such as Coinbase Ventures, Social Capital, as well as Sequoia. Interestingly, its blockchain is similar to that of Bitcoin, except that it's modified to fit an entire social network. And as stated previously, it's fully open source and data is stored on a public blockchain. So let's get into the tokenomics of the project. The supply of DSO is fixed at 10.8 million coins, which was actually distributed via a bonding curve, which basically functions in a way such that each subsequent buyer pays more for the next portion of coins. Founders actually own less than 20% of the total supply, and not one buyer holds more than 5% of the overall supply other than the founders in an effort to push forth for decentralization. I'll be now passing my time over to Ayushman to continue.
Thank you, Somesh. Now I'll be talking about its functionality. The nature of the project allows everyone to have their own coins called creator coins that can be traded by anyone. Next, you can trade anyone's coins. The project allows you to trade anyone's coin as long as these coins exist. In fact, to allow the trading of these coins, the project linked in the accounts of the top 15,000 influencers on Twitter. Trading these creator coins are almost the same as trading someone's social clout. Moving on to the flow of funds, here's how transactions work here. A user acquires the native currency DSO through any supported exchange. They next purchase and sell creator coins from the profile of creators on the platform. Let's move on to the unique users of creator coins. First, exclusive perks. Creators can allow only certain people who hold their coin to be involved in their social life. This ranges from having the ability to comment on their post to premium direct messages. Next, promotion. Creators can allow people to bid for an opportunity to repost their post on the platform. Upon posting, the creator gets to keep the bid amount in creator coins. Lastly, distribution and engagement. Creators can distribute scarce resources to the biggest holders. This ranges from having autographs to even a date night with the largest holder. Let's move on to the supply curve. Creator coins are scarce with up to only 1,500 coins in existence per profile. As more people buy a profile's creator coins, the price of the coin goes up at a faster rate. This means that eventually it will take billions of dollars to mint even one more coin. The price of each new coin minted for a buyer is determined through the exponential equation shown here. This function allows the trading of the coins to work through an automated market maker. Buying and minting coins create an automatic upward pressure on price, while selling creates an automatic downwards pressure. Moving on to the utility. For creators can choose how they wish to reward their backers in ways that weren't possible before. When followers buy their coins, they could get all kinds of exclusive perks. For instance, if the coin hits a certain value, special benefits could be unlocked for the first few coin holders. Next, they can benefit from founders' rewards. These are basically transaction fees creators collect every time someone trades their coin. The founder's reward can be set anywhere between 0 to 100%. Moving on to the followers, if one invests early in a creator project and buys a share of their coin at a low price, they can benefit as the coin value goes up. They also get an opportunity to get a one-on-one coaching, private community access, and exclusive fan perks from creators as long as followers hold their coins. Lastly, they can earn money by betting on reputation of celebrities based on the performance in their real life. So why did BitClout get so popular? Firstly, it quickly attracted attention with a very unique and controversial core function. BitClout quickly racked up 100 million USD in funding from major VC firms. Next, they have famous active users. Popular names like Jake Paul, Coinbase's Brian Armstrong, and the Winklevoss twins began actively using the platform. Lastly, the presence of the top 15,000 Twitter users profile allowed BitClout users to speculate on the rise or fall in the popularity of these influencers. Now I'll be passing on the time to Advait to talk about the BitClout nodes.
Okay, so in this sharing, we decided to dive deeper into one of their more cooler and more impactful features, which is their nodes. And they are not just any nodes, they are more than just that. Compared to networks such as Ethereum and Bitcoin, they do more than just validating the network, and they provide more incentives because the BitClout team determined that incentivizing node operators was important to bringing about decentralization. And so they do this by providing the social features, which gives operators the incentive that other blockchains don't. Moving on. The way they do this is by allowing the users to curate content and by providing them the flexibility to expose their content in more ways than just one. So one key element is that the BitClout gives you access to the full BitClout firehose. So you don't have to come up with data from scratch, and you can just build your feed according to how you like it. They allow you to customize the front end to your liking and add your own social features. So there's a lot of possibilities for a node operator to provide value on that platform when users come and visit their website. Next slide. So this is one example of a node. So as you can see, it's using the traditional BitClout firehose, but they are exposing it in a different way. And the value they want to provide is to show users and to provide users an experience that's similar to Reddit. And so they can choose to go to this node if they want to use BitClout, but through a Reddit filter. Next example is something more special. I'm sure all of you have heard of the term metaverse or have maybe explored the platform known as GatherTown. What they do here is use the BitClout network to provide a metaverse experience and allow you to hang around in a virtual experience with other people in the BitClout community. And such platforms are special because you cannot achieve such things with traditional social media platforms because the bigger platforms such as Facebook and Twitter maybe would not expose their APIs to third parties and would not allow people to create platforms such as this as easily. And this is why BitClout is so special. Next slide. Yeah, so BitClout is like subreddits, but you make the rules. You can create your own sub-communities with full flexibility, and they allow you to provide a social element to any product and service. And the special part of this is that they solve the problem for you, because if you want to create a social network, you'll be provided with the chicken and egg scenario where you don't have the content and you don't have the users. So which one do you create first? BitClout gives you everything and allows you to build your platform around this. And so in this way, it empowers users and organizations in ways that conventional platforms would never consider. Next slide. So let's dive into how this works under the hood. Currently, BitClout is working on a hybrid proof of work consensus mechanism, and they support around 10 posts per second, which is not where they want to be. As you can see here, they have a timeline planned out in 4 phases to expand their transaction speed. So first, they will move to proof of stake, and in parallel, they will increase their block size, adopt a warp sync mechanism similar to what Ethereum is doing now, and introduce sharding, all with the objective of increasing their user base to about 1 billion. And this is important because what BitClout is aiming to do is not just be one network. They want to support multiple social media platforms and multiple apps. And in doing so, they will face challenges along the way, which Rhythm will share more about.
Thank you, Advait. Now, as is the case for every project, BitClout has encountered its fair share of challenges as well. Firstly, it has been accused of identity theft several times. What BitClout does is that it uses creator profiles of people They have not even started using the platform yet. A perfect example is Elon Musk, as touched upon by Somesh earlier. Next, a problem faced in its infant stages was the one-way conversion. Once you buy into BitCloud using Bitcoin, there was no way to convert it back to Bitcoin. Lastly, another common problem they faced was the accusation of artificially pumping up creators' reserve profiles in order to help the platform gain traction. These challenges did lead to tangible repercussions. Firstly, for the identity theft issue, BitCloud was actually served with a legal notice by the crypto law firm Anderson Kill PC on behalf of Brandon Curtis for using his private information without his consent. Although the charge did not go through, it did serve as a warning shot for BitCloud. Secondly, for the one-way conversion issue, it meant that multiple frustrated investors were left hanging as they discovered that they were unable to recover their value for money. Lastly, artificial pumps and dumps are part and parcel of any low market cryptocurrency, especially those that are just getting started. However, it could seriously compromise their credibility as a token. Now, BitCloud did try to address some of these concerns, and here's how. For the identity theft issue, verified Twitter accounts now have to be linked, which enables the platform to employ the use of their private information with discretion. Naturally, Twitter, being an online platform, is still, however, susceptible to hacks, which could result in the leakage of sensitive information. Next, now not only can BitCloud tokens be converted back to Bitcoin, but they can also be converted to other forms of cryptocurrency through a centralized exchange called Sandbox. Lastly, no measures have been put in place to cure the artificial pumping problem, but nevertheless, they can look into strategies such as aggressive marketing and the listing of their creator coins on multiple centralized exchanges. These will help to increase the token adoption and hand in hand its liquidity. However, it is important to take note that the aggressive marketing strategy may not be as effective for BitCloud given their relatively new blockchain DSO. Existing blockchains such as that of Bitcoin and Ethereum are widely adopted already, as contrasted from DSO. With that, I will now be passing my time over to Sumit to discuss the next section.
Thank you, Rhythm. Now that we have a better understanding of BitCloud, let's explore what other social media platforms that exist and how they fare against BitCloud. So we'll be looking at Grid Protocol, XCAT Network, Rally, and Twitter. So as you can see that besides Twitter, all of them are decentralized platforms. They have different purposes in mind, whereby for Grid Protocol, it's more to create a decentralized autonomous organization. For XCAT Network, is to allow YouTubers to tokenize themselves and to reward their fans and themselves. For Rally, it's more to allow their users to mint their own independent digital economies. For Twitter, it's more about allowing users to interact with one another through the use of text and videos. And as mentioned earlier, Twitter and BitCloud do share a very similar mode of content delivery. For Grid Protocol and Rally, it's more about giving tools to build their communities. And for XCAT Network, it's through the use of YouTube videos. As you can see from the slides, there are different fees per transaction, different blockchain, and different consensus mechanism for all the different social media platforms. So naturally, all of them have different features. BitCloud was already mentioned by Ayushman and Rhythm, Ayushman and Advait. So for Grid Protocol, it's more about having a more community-driven, with a community-driven focus, and it allows the multi-coin configuration with other Solana tokens. For XCAT Network is to create a more interactive engagement between YouTube creators and their fans, and it allows fans to have a say in the creator's decision. For Rally, it's more about allowing creators to build their own independent platform without having any platform fee, low environmental impact, and it has seamless integration with other apps. For Twitter, it's more to have the ability to share breaking news in real time, and it closely collaborates with its creators, which creates a highly sociable and candid experience. As with all projects, there comes flaws. So a great protocol is that seeing that it's a decentralized autonomous organization, the dormancy of community members can actually affect the way how it's run. And the recent outage indicates that Solana is actually far away from self-sustainability. For XCAT Network, it has doors open to potential legal issues that come because it generates income through the use of YouTube videos. Platform for Rally is more about it has issues when it comes to multi-bots and accounting. And for Twitter, it has a high issue of cancel and hate culture. Now that we have already explored what are the different types of social media platform and how they compare against one another. But I hope that that's given you a more holistic understanding. And I'll be passing over the time to Somesh, who will be sharing more about the future roadmap.
All right, thank you, Sumit. So to end things off, let's look at what the future roadmap of BitCloud looks like. So they're focusing on three main things, namely scaling the decentralized applications. Right now, they have over 150 apps on the DeSo blockchain, and they aim to have much more in the future. Next, they want to switch the mechanism from a hybrid proof of work mechanism to a proof of stake mechanism, similar to what Ethereum is planning to do. And lastly, the interoperability of blockchains, which is what the future of blockchains is going to be to ensure more consumers come to the platform. With that, we have come to the end of our presentation. Thank you for your time.
All right, thank you so much, Team Russ. That was a very insightful presentation. Okay, if not, we'll just proceed on with the Q&A. Judges, please feel free to ask the questions.
Cool. If nobody has questions, so I just think this is an exciting area for the given I've worked in Facebook and Twitter for 10 years, and I do think every successful blockchain project is a new social network like Ethereum. So I mean, you guys talk about a lot of things, right? I do think the centralization of the social network right now, it's a big problem. But I think a big cloud, the approach you mentioned, there's only pros and cons. If you were trying to solve the centralization problem of the social network of Facebook and Twitter, how will you approach this problem in a different way?
All right, that's actually a very interesting question. I think all of us, when you're doing the research on this project, actually thought of it at the same time, right? Because like you mentioned, the future of social media networks tend to be more decentralized. We can see a lot more competitors that are coming up every single day. So it's important for these decentralized social media platforms to sort of differentiate themselves, right? And I think the one area which BitCloud could improve on is obviously in terms of the transparency, because one thing we noticed during our research is that they actually changed the name of the coin from Cloud to DeSo, and the founder was anonymous until almost a month back or so. So the lack of transparency made people sort of question the entire process, right? And we felt that the lack of ability to swap from the native currency back to Bitcoin, people thought that was this a scam? And many YouTubers actually posted videos on BitCloud, namely CoffeeZilla. And so we felt that the marketing could have been much better in terms of how they put forth their project, how BitCloud is actually something viable for content creators to use, instead of being sort of lack of transparency at the start, where people would be unsure whether they could actually develop on this platform. So in my opinion, I would say that they could go in a more transparent manner, such that things are made more clearer in their marketing. Yeah.
I've just one question here. It's really interesting to see about the decentralization of social media. In this case, in BitCloud's business model here. My question for the team is sustainability. And as you mentioned the context here, the beginnings, the origins of BitCloud was shrouded in controversy. So it's a bit of bad press going on for the business before it got started. Of course, it went to a frenzy. It took off immediately with the big investors logging in. This is about social media plus investing in someone's fame or shame. So I'm thinking, how sustainable is this? And do you guys have any concerns about the sustainability of this business model in terms of benefiting, investing in some celebrity, some well-known persons, fame or shame to drive the investment value up?
I think and that's a very interesting aspect as well, because I think Kanye West once said, I'm not a businessman, I'm a businessman. So I think that sort of applies in this entire context of investing in creators, right? How you're investing in their reputation and their clout, hence the name BitCloud. And obviously there are many concerns with it. I think there was an episode on Black Mirror where people used to rate each other's reputation, right? And then if your reputation goes down below a certain threshold, then you won't be entitled to certain things in society. And that I feel that is a major concern which these decentralized social media networks need to work on. And if you look at centralized social media networks, I think it's actually very prevalent as well in terms of cancel culture, right? How one's worth could just be determined by a piece of old news that determines how the emotional well-being will be affected by an old piece of news, and then the word spread and stuff like that. So this is something that I feel is more of a human psychology issue in terms of how they should approach the idea of reputation and clout. But if you look at it in the angle of investing in someone's creativity, investing in someone's content delivery, then that would be a rather interesting way to think about it, rather than looking at it in terms of a reputation-based standpoint. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
All right, judges, are there any more questions?
So I have a question. Since I'm quite old in terms of age, I'm not using this distributed social media platform before. So what are the target users of this distributed social media platform so far? So what are the persona of these users?
So the way
I bet you may want.
So the way Big Cloud works currently is, while it did start off as just a normal looking social network, they do allow many different platforms to build on top of Big Cloud. So in this way, right, different node operators can address different consumer segments. So for example, while it's not built yet, there was an example of maybe ESPN building their own social platform on top of Big Cloud, and in doing so, they will be able to target customers who are more interested in sports. Another example is there's a platform currently which offers NFTs on top of Big Cloud, and in doing so, they can also address the customer segment which is more interested in trading NFTs, who are more interested in blockchain. And at the same time, despite all this, they can also allow people to create nodes that act as more traditional social media. So while we have Instagram, Twitter, Facebook today, they can create a similar platform on top of Big Cloud and address that customer segment. So there isn't one specific consumer segment that Big Cloud is addressing, but they're opening up the possibilities for users and organizations to address more and more people in an easier way.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, I think we can proceed on with the next team. So our final team would be, yeah, you can start sharing your screen. Yep, you can see your slides. So team soulmates, once you're ready, you can just begin.
Can you see my screen now?
Yep, it's
okay.
ready.
Wait, you want to start?
Yes, sure. Okay, so good evening, everyone. Our team is Soulmates, and tonight we are going to give a presentation on Solana, one of the most popular blockchain right now. Our team includes me, Yunlong, and Timothy. To begin with, I will cite a speech. Oh, okay. So I will start in an introduction to Solana. Next slide, please. Solana was founded in 2007, 2017 by Anatoly Yakovenko, and is an open source project that implements a high performance permissionless blockchain. Solana is a web-scale blockchain that provides fast, secure, scalable, decentralized apps and marketplaces. The system currently supports 50,000 transaction per second and 400 millisecond block times. Next slide, please. So what is the goal of Solana? The first is to support all high growth and high frequency blockchain applications and to democratize the world financial system. Then the second is to demonstrate that there is a possible set of software algorithms using the combination to create a blockchain. The third is to solve the blockchain dilemma. And finally, become a scalable network, which is much faster than any existing blockchain. Now, I will talk briefly about how Solana works. Here, it is the blockchain trilemma, which is very popular. For those who are used to this, the blockchain trilemma is a concept coined by Vitalik Buterin that proposes a set of three main issues that developers encounter when building blockchains. More often than not, the creators are forced to sacrifice one aspect for the sake of the other two. These three are decentralized, security, scalability. Next slide, please. Yeah. So unlike Bitcoin that use work algorithm that decentralized crop for the system, Solana is a proof of history method. With proof of history, you're able to create historical records that provide an event occurs during a specific moment in time. The algorithm is a very high frequency verifiable delay function. This function requires a specific number of sequential steps to evaluate. Later, Timothy will talk more about the concept of proof of history. The transactions of events, previous slide please. The transaction of events are evaluated and will be given a value of hash and the count that can be publicly and effectively verified. The count also allow us to know when the transaction or event occur, functioning like a cryptographic timestamp. Hence, we can see that the proof of history is a powerful mechanism that unlocks network speed previously unseen in blockchain technology, which provides Solana with high throughput and more efficiency. Next slide, please. Yeah. So finally, I will talk about the position of Solana on the blockchain trilemma. Some choose speed and security over decentralization, while others prefer a different mix. But Solana claims to be fast, secure, and decentralized all at once. Based on this claim, Solana falls right at the middle of the triangle, implying all three criteria. So Solana is a combination of proof of stake, consensus, and proof of history to solve the blockchain trilemma. You can see that the proof of history is an effective way to reduce the time waiting for the order of transactions. A synchronized clock is created to allocate a timestamp to each transaction. Also, with the use of proof of stake, the selection for the next validator will be straightforward. This also removes the ability of boss and miner to control the order which transactions appear on the blockchain. So that also makes make use of a decentralized data storage blockchain as opposed to the centrally located server operated by a single company or organization. The decentralized storage system consists of a peer-to-peer network of users and operators who hold a portion of the overall data, creating a resilient system for file storage and sharing. Hence, while holding very high transaction per second, require high processing power and large storage per use data blockchain to solve this problem. Now, I will pass my time to Timothy. Thank you.
Thanks, Louis. So far, we've got the idea of that Solana focuses a lot on scalability and how exactly does Solana achieve this. So next, I'm going to walk you through the 8 core inventions of Solana that made this possible. So there is a framework that Solana follows to achieve its scalability. There are optimization in terms of hardware, CPU and memory storage, and next is communication, how messages are disseminated, and lastly on consensus, which is how agreement is achieved. So these are the 8 core inventions: proof of history, Tower Byzantine, Tower BFT, Turbian, and so on. We'll see how each of these play a part in the whole framework. So the first one is proof of history. It is a verifiable delay function, so all the events will be given a hash and count, and from this the nodes could figure out which sequences of events occurs. So this eliminates the back and forth communication between the nodes and providing higher efficiency. So where does this play a part in the framework? Since it eliminates the back and forth communication between the nodes, it optimizes the communication. It optimizes the communication layer of the framework. Next is Tower Byzantine fault tolerance. This dates back to the Byzantine's general problem, which is how to achieve consensus in a trustless manner. And the early practical Byzantine PBFT implementation in the Hyperledger fabric of Linux Foundation solve this issue by offering liveliness and safety. And Tower BFT, TBFT, is basically an improvement of this consensus algorithm, and it provides liveliness, it prefers liveliness to consistency, leveraging Solana's POH to increase transaction speed. So where does this lie in the whole framework? It is in the consensus. And next, I'll talk about Turbine. In a decentralized system, increasing node count will increase the time to send data to all nodes. So Turbine is a block propagation method created to solve this. The messages are broken down to packets and transmitted from one validator to the next. So if you have you have a node produces a message to 500 of its peers, it wouldn't need to transmit this 500 times. Instead, it could just transmit in small packets, and it saves a lot of times. And next, so Turbine is a message propagation protocol, and it optimizes Solana in the communication part of the framework. Next, we'll talk about Gulfstream. Just some background. Mempool is a set of transactions that have been submitted but have not yet been processed by the network. So in Bitcoin and Ethereum, mempools are propagated in the P2P fashion using Gossip protocol, which are inefficient and causes significant bottleneck. And Gulfstream is basically improve this by catching and forwarding all the transactions to the edge of the network. So all validators know what is going to happen next. All the leaders and validators for the next transactions are known, and this allows transactions to be executed ahead of time, reducing confirmation time, allowing Solana to support 50K transactions per second. And where does this lie in the whole framework? Is in the communication part. Next, I'll talk about C-level, just some background. Single-threaded blockchains can run only one contract at a time. Examples include EVM, Ethereum Virtual Machine, and EOS Wasm-based runtimes. On the other hand, Solana can process tens of thousands of contracts in parallel. And how does Solana do this? They do this by describing all the states that it will write and read and write while executing the transactions. So this allows C-level to plan the transactions ahead of time, allowing the non-overlapping transactions to execute concurrently. And C-level is basically a hyper-parallelized transactions processing engine, and it schedules transactions only, handle it off to be executed on the hardware, and it follows the Moore's law. Every time NVIDIA doubles the number of SIMD lanes, Solana will double in computational capacity. And where does this lie? It lies in the hardware part. Next, I'll talk about Cloudbreak. Is scaling actually enough? We've been talking about scaling computation all this time, but when scaling a blockchain without sharding, it is not enough to only scale computation. Memory that is used to keep track of all the accounts will quickly become a bottleneck. And to solve this, SSD is the best option, which is implemented in Solana's Cloudbreak, a state architecture that is optimized for concurrent reads and writes using SSD, supporting ahead of time execution of transactions. So Cloudbreak lies improve blockchain in the hardware aspects as well. And next, I'll talk about pipeline, which is an optimization common in the CPU design. Basically, it's just a transaction processing unit structured in a way such that there is different hardware responsible for each step of the transactions. So you can see the transaction processing unit progresses data to data fetching at the kernel level, signature verification at the GPU, writing at the kernel space, banking at the CPU level as well. And by the time TPU sends blocks out to the validators, it's already fetched in the next set of packets and begun crediting tokens. So where does this lie in the whole framework? It lies in the optimization of the hardware as well. And next, I'll talk about Archivers. So at 1 GB per second, 4 petabytes of data are generated on the ledger, and for all validators to store all the data would be a primary centralization factors, which defeats the purpose of the blockchain. So instead, in Solana, data is offloaded from validators to a network of nodes called Archivers, and the history is stored in so many different pieces, and each archiver stores small parts of the history. Yeah. So Archivers improve Solana in the hardware aspects, especially in the memory. Next, I'll talk about Solana use cases. So this is what the Solana ecosystem looked like as of June 25th, 2021. There are applications in DeFi, NFT, staking, wallet, and so on. And this is the side-to-side comparison between Solana and Ethereum's application. You can see there are a lot of things. There are a lot of things you can do on Ethereum that can also be done on Solana. In fact, Solana's 50K transactions per second is achieved without using layer 2 solutions, whereas Ethereum is reliant on Polygon, Plasma Chain, and similar scaling solutions. So Solana remains one of the few layer 1 blockchain protocols that isn't exposed to the mass exit problems and other risks associated with layer 2 solutions. And we think that Solana is poised to be a very strong competitor of Ethereum. You might be wondering whether Solana is EVM compatible. And currently, Neon Labs, there is a company called Neon Labs, announced that they will be deploying its Ethereum virtual machine solution on Solana testnet. So developers running Ethereum application may deploy their smart contracts on Neon to leverage on Solana's high throughput and low fees. So this cause Neon may soon help Solana to be EVM compatible. And these are some use cases of Solana, Solarians, Audio Serum, and so on. Lastly, I'll talk about the tokenomics. And currently, the native Solana token is called SOL. There are 500 million tokens that will be in circulation, but currently only 300 millions are already in circulations. Another 200 million will be unlocked by 2023. The initial Sol token distribution is as follows. And if you compare the initial coin distribution between all the blockchains, you can see that here Solana, almost 48% of Solana coins are insiders owned. And so there are some concerns about the distribution. 48% is very high, reflects inequitable distribution. People are scared of being dumped on when insiders' information became available. And one thing to take note is that 48% is not the initial supply. Oh, sorry. It's not the current supply, it's the initial supply. So as with token unlocks and staking, the ratio has changed over time. Some VCs might have exited their position and taken profit, but the reverse could also be true. So we never know. And whether or not Solana is long-term inflationary or deflationary, there are two forces at play, inflation and deflation. Inflation mainly comes from staking rewards, which starts at 8% a few months ago, reduces a little every epoch, and final rate will be 1.5% in 10 years from now. And the second force is deflation, which comes from specific percentage of transaction fee that is burned. And with enough transactions per second, this burn could equal 1.5%, would make Solana 0% inflation, because it cancels the 1.5% inflation. And with even more transactions, the burn could be more than 1.5%, which could make Solana deflationary. So in the end, it depends on the adoption of the Solana in the future. Next, I'll pass the time to Jinlong. Thank you.
All right, hi guys. So I'll run through and wrap it up very quickly. So next slide, please. So the value of the Solana protocol is basically to enable scalable, user-friendly dApps for the world. Next slide. So as you can see here, we have a competitor analysis ranging from Cardano all the way to Ethereum. Of course, there are other platforms out there, but we've excluded them for simplicity. So Solana, as you can see, has 339. Moving on, we have TPS. So Solana uses the POH consensus model, which allows it to hit up to 57,000 transactions per second currently, and it can scale up to 1 million. Ethereum 1.0 supports up to only 30 transactions, but it is worth noting that it's transitioning to Ethereum 2.0. Cardano is currently supporting 57,723. Avalanche is supporting more than 4,500. So moving on to the updated blockchain trilemma. So later I'll explain why we've moved Solana left side of the curve, even though we've said that it should be the middle. So I've also provided the snapshot comparison to allow you to compare Solana to Ethereum 1.0 as well as Cardano. So moving on to the challenges. So firstly, a lack of nodes. So as I mentioned before in the blockchain trilemma, currently Solana has only 1,075 nodes compared with Ethereum 1.0 with 2,905 miners, and Ethereum 2.0 with 244,432 validators already on the Ethereum 2.0 beacon chain. Therefore, you can see that this clearly shifts Solana to the left side, which is not very decentralized. So a lack of nodes can actually cause Solana blockchain to be susceptible to tampering. Okay, so in terms of dApps, Solana does not support EVM compatibility right now. Therefore, all those developers that have experience in Solidity will have a higher barrier of entry when transitioning over to Solana because they don't want to afford the opportunity cost or do not have experience in Rust. So the roadmap for Solana. So Solana is a very mature blockchain. So right now, it's actually already in the public. The only difference is that in March 2022, they plan to remove the suffix of beta from the whole Solana title. So for the future wise, Solana plans to actually onboard more validators and more developers onto the program. They plan to do this using the Solana delegation program, which is actually just using the community chairs to create launchpad for developers to increase adoption and drive decentralization. So from this entire presentation, I want you to have 5 key takeaways. The first is that Solana is a blockchain project focused on dApps. Uses a unique POH model, allowing it to hit up to 57,000 transactions per second currently. And currently, there are also 339 dApps on the blockchain ecosystem. There are also two negative takeaways, which are that a lack of nodes prevents Solana from achieving the network effect and decentralization, as well as the lack of EVM compatibility. And with that, I've come to the end of the presentation. Hope you guys have enjoyed it. And this is Team Solana.
Okay, thank you for your presentation. Yeah, judges, you may ask the questions if you have any.
Yeah, thank you very much, your team, for the presentation. I have two questions. In strategy, basically, it's very simple. Is cheaper or better or faster? In this case, it looks like from the team's presentation, Solana is cheaper and faster compared to Ethereum. So I think in terms of transactions per second TPS, as well as the average transaction fee. My question for the team is that should Solana play up to its strengths, get even faster and cheaper compared to Ethereum, some of its competitors, or should it try to address some of its weaknesses which you highlighted in your presentation? So what's the team's thinking on this in terms of analysis? Should Solana continue to play up on its strengths to become even faster and cheaper, or should it address some of its current weaknesses? The second question is about the use case for Solana. In terms of the crypto gaming and the NFTs, do you see that that's the bright spot driving the growth of Solana in the future?
So to address the first question, right? So there's actually a lot of debate on why Solana doesn't support EVM compatibility. And I think right now, in terms of technical capabilities, they don't actually have to because they're more technically advanced. For example, Solana does not have the mempool sharing. So in a sense, it could be a difference in ideology, but our team feels that Solana should actually just focus on widening the gap in terms of its strengths. Then for the second question, actually Solana does already support a lot of dApps with regards to NFTs and the crypto gaming sector. So yeah, definitely in terms of future, because right now they are focused on scaling the entire blockchain, right, through the community shares and launchpad programs. So yeah, definitely they will probably bring in more NFTs and crypto gaming dApps onto their platform for sure.
Thank you.
Cool. Yeah, I have a follow-up. So I actually agree, EVM, not EVM comparable, actually it's good. If you want to, beat Ethereum, you should not comparable it, right? You should do better. If you are learning just from Ethereum, it's really hard for you to pass Ethereum. But my question is different question. It's what's your concern about the centralization? Solana, a lot of people think it's not decentralized enough. What's your thoughts, and do you think Solana can overcome that issue?
Okay, so personally, I think even our team feels that Solana is not very decentralized right now, but this is because of the let's say computational and hardware requirements of being a Solana validator. So there's a lot of online forums that already actually called Solana out, because to be an Ethereum validator, right, or Beacon Chain validator, all you need to do is run it from a laptop. But to have stable returns for the Solana validation network, you actually have to have a pretty high-end rig, talking about fully spec'd out desktop with 128 gig of RAM. So definitely Solana does have to actually make it easier, or actually reduce the barrier of entry for people to come in and be validators for the Solana blockchain. Right now they are doing this by actually offering incentive programs, but only time will tell whether people actually absorb it and then actually decide to take the risk and then become a Solana validator. But I agree that more can be done to incentivize people to actually adopt and join the Solana blockchain. Yep, I hope that answers your question.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Hi, everyone. Let me just share my screen. Okay, so once again, a really huge thank you to all teams who have put in so much effort for their presentations. Now the judges will be sharing their feedback on your presentations.
Okay, thank you very much, Reese and the organizing committee. Personally, I'd like to thank you guys for reaching out to me to be part of this panel of judges tonight. And of course, thanks to all the 5 teams you presented. You said you spent about 6 weeks together working on this project as a team. So thank you very much for all your hard work and effort in these projects that you've delivered tonight. Representing all the judges tonight here, Prof. Wen, Roger, Dr. Chen, and myself, I think we've enjoyed all the team's presentations. We will do the feedback team by team, beginning with the first team. All right, so no particular order, but in the order of the presentation tonight. The first team we encountered tonight was Team Luna about Uniswap, the liquidity pools. I think my overall impression of representing judges, I think it was an adequate presentation in terms of trying to explain what the project's about in terms of the blockchain applications. But I think all the judges thought that the team could go deeper into the technical analysis, into the actual algorithms or the mathematics part of it here. So I think a little bit more to technical analysis will have helped to strengthen and give deeper analysis to the project. But overall, I think we enjoyed the presentation. I think you guys did well in terms of that part. Team 2, so these are just capsule feedback. Capsule means it's just brief feedback for each team. Team 2, I think we had this, was it Team Axis, Xinfinity. For this team here, I think some things we look at from the judges part of it, I think the team showed us that they were able to have a point of view. Not just presenting from the research, secondary sources, but they thought through about the whole project itself in terms of Xinfinity, the pros and cons, and the value they create for the stakeholders there. So it also showed that the students did some of their own thinking analysis in their project as well, and there was also clarity in the way they presented it. So I think some of the strengths came out strongly in the XC team here. For the third team, capsule description feedback is, I think this is the Brave browser team, Team Braves. This one we thought could have gone deeper into some of the initiatives by some of Brave browser's competitors, for example, Google and so on. I think the part for us was that there wasn't enough of a differentiation. What else could a Brave browser do to differentiate itself from other competitors out there? So I think, in terms of protecting user privacy, Google is really doing it. So if it's same, then how can Brave browser move ahead and stay ahead of the competitors out there? But on the whole, I think there was enough to think about to share with us the value proposition, what Brave browser is doing in this space here. Okay, Team 4, I think it's Rust team, the Bit Cloud team. A bit about the Bit Cloud team. Let's pick up my comments here from the judges. This is the depth for social media. I think you convinced us that this is an exciting opportunity space out there for the company for this venture. I think there was also a detailed analysis in terms of bringing this value proposition out to the layman. I think some questions for Big Cloud to consider in terms of the timing. I think they came out of the judges here, and I'm not sure whether they've put any potential killer features, not just a decentralized social media, but some specific aspects could translate to have a killer feature app somewhere there. So that is for the Big Cloud team. That's for Russ. Then we have team, is it team 5 now? Let me just pick this up. This is Soulmates for Solana. For Solana team, I think the judges were, I think we all agreed with consensus that this probably is the most challenging in terms of the technical complexity of the particular project. But I think Solana did well in terms of trying to bring across the technical terms in a way that like this is like Harry Potter, right? Creating magic, but bringing it out to the person out there and thoughtfully, keeping the complexity, the technical part of the project still intact. So the technical integrity behind that whole Solana thing was there, but it was thought through clearly and conveyed that very well. I thought that was one part I think the judges agreed on. In terms of a question for further development improvement, what's next steps? What are some of the other applications by Solana in terms of sitting on this brand that's created, right? And some of the predictions that you could create, whether right or wrong, about Solana's future and next moves. So I think basically those are the oral feedback. So thank you very much, I think, to all my fellow judges on this panel here, Prof. Wen, Dr. Chen, and so as Roger. All right, I've done with all the feedback. I'll pass the floor back to Reese.
All right, thank you so much to all the judges. So now we have come to the moment that you've all been waiting for, which is the announcement of the results. So Prof will be helping to announce the results.
Sure. Sure. So before I announce the result, I want to thank all the organizers to organize such a fantastic event, and also the team who participate in this event. Actually, I hope the presentation will not be the end of your project. I would encourage all the team think about how do you want to take this your research and study to the next level. Actually, at the university, we are we are in the planning of getting signed some kind of collaboration agreement with the Ethereum Foundation, with Vitalik Buterin on board to help to mentor some of our students' project, and they even consider to actually in the future to sponsor some of our students' project. So if you do want to take your project further in further development, feel free to reach out to Race, and then since I'm also the mentor of this club, so I will use some I will leverage my connection with the Ethereum Foundation to actually get some support to the teams. And also there are actually some courses are conducted on campus for the students if you want to learn more about blockchain development and stuff like that. Actually, I'm co-teaching a blockchain course at the computer science CX4135. So each year we run in the 4th semester. And so next time you may want to take that course to get yourself familiar with some of the design and the development practices. So with that, that's back to announce the results of tonight's presentation. Let's first start with the bronze medal winner. The winner goes to Team Solomate, and the silver goes to Team Ross, and gold medal goes to Team Axia. Thanks. Congratulations to all 5 teams, and we the panel had a really thorough discussion and the comments. All 5 teams have done really well, but now we only can we have to, even among the top, we have to select three winners, and I hope all the team will take this opportunity to actually further develop their project into some interesting ideas, and put some interesting idea to the study and develop their own project. And the club and the university, we'll do our best to support the team to taking the project forward. Back to Rice.
Yeah, thanks so much, Prof. And once again, congratulations to all the winners. So the Expo members will be reaching out to the winning team in regards to the prizes and certificates.